Back at home, feeling misunderstood, and between these ears ain't nothing good.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for another View from the Bench with our good friend Jonah Mitchell, former guest of the podcast, and actually now a podcaster himself. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that a little bit. But we had a topic in mind. He says that he wants to discuss the All-American Mindset. So Jonah, thanks for being here, and thanks for you're giving us your view from the bench for this month and our listeners.
Dude, I'm always happy to be here and get to talk to one of my favorite people. It's super exciting, and I'm really excited to talk about this topic today. So, thanks for letting me come back.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think this is we talked about it when you were on our podcast. There's it's not just fitness with you; it's much more of a mindset and lifestyle change that I think we can have. I mean, you said you have as many topics as we want to discuss, we can talk about, and I feel like it's beneficial for our listeners, especially ones. I mean, I know my sister's going through your challenge now, so it's not like people aren't hearing what you're saying and aren't giving you a chance to help them out as well. So let's get into it. You said it's about the All-American Mindset. What does that mean?
All right, so this is something that I've been working on a lot lately, and I really started calling it after I did that nutrition talk up at Western. And for those of you who don't know, me and Jimmy both play football at Western together, Western Colorado University. So they had me up there a couple weeks ago to give a nutrition talk, and it was mainly about nutrition. But really, when it comes to anything that we do, fitness, nutrition, anything like podcasting or building a business or anything that you have, it's all about the mindset, right? You can only go as far as you believe you can go. So I coined it. I started calling it the All-American Mindset based on my own goals when I was in my sport. And I never actually became an All-American, even though I wanted to be an All-American. I said it every single day. I wasn't doing the things that I actually thought were that would have actually made me into an All-American, right? It's a lot of people like to think that it's a, what's it called? Like you're either born with it or you're not. When really most anyone who's successful in a sport, in their careers and whatever they're doing, they had to build themselves up to that point. You know, it's a lot of little things. So anyway, the All-American Mindset really breaks down what you want and puts it into small actionable steps that are done to the highest level possible. Okay. So my realm is fitness. I help people get in the best shape of their life, especially people who struggle with doing that, who stopped over and over and over again, and don't really know why they've stopped, you know, and they want to get in the best shape of their life. They want to lose 100 pounds. They want this, they want that, but they never really know what to do beyond like, okay, I got to suffer with my diet. I got to suffer with my nutrition. But they think it's one thing, you know, I can only speak from experience, right? I said I wanted to be an All-American, but I never was able to do it because I was never doing the things that All-American does. I would show up to practice and I would show up to games. I would think that was it. That's like you practice, you lift weights and you perform on the field. I never performed on the field. And in my own analysis of why I didn't become an All-American, I broke it down into the little things, you know? I mean, everyone who's played a sport has had a coach at one point say, do the little things, take the little things seriously. And then we look at them like the little things don't matter. It's the big thing. It's the big plays that you make on the field or on the court, or it's the big sale you make for your corporation or whatever it is, you know, but it's the tiny things that add up over time that lead to the big things. And if we're just always relying on the big things, then they're either far and in between and infrequent. But if we could take the little things, this is where the All-American Mindset really comes in, taking the little things and doing those to the maximum ability you can leads to more consistent and higher performing big things over a period of time. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and we're going to definitely get into it. I just wanted to tell everybody listening to the podcast right now, be sure to check out this full video on YouTube for my conversation that Jonah and I are going to have. If that intrigued you at all, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, because this will be put out on our YouTube channel coming up this Monday.
You're not
So a
going to
couple
want to
things.
miss it.
Yeah, no, you're not. A couple things just listening to that. I feel the same way about the mindset, and that's basically the difference between players who played in college and All-Americans, because I've thought that for a while. It's always when you get to a certain level, everybody's just as talented, everybody's just as strong, just as fast, and it's those guys. Austin Ekeler, that's a guy that we played with when we were at Western Colorado. Dude was a 3-time All-American, and I remember my freshman year, it was his senior year, and he muffed, I think, 1 punt in a game, and it was a game that we won against Fort Lewis. And for the rest of the season, he was out there after practice catching punts with Garrett for about 30 minutes. And you're like, this dude is done. Like, this dude could walk away now and be a legend and be one of the greatest players, but what's that difference? And it was, you got to be a little bit selfish, and you got to have that mindset of like, I'm doing everything that I can, the best way that I can, to be able to become this thing that I want to be. And he's a good person. I know that that was something I think he was probably just born with. I mean, he had a presence about him almost.
Honestly, anytime I start talking about this, Eckler's probably like my first go-to like example of this, mainly because he is the person who I only know him through sports. I don't know him personally. Like I consider like I barely acquaintances, even in college. But like you said, that presence he had, he definitely made it known that he had one goal, and that was to be a professional football player. And he was spending 30 minutes after every practice to catch a punt because he messed one up in the game, right? It's that kind of self-discipline, but also that mindset that said, I dropped this, I need to make sure I never do this again, right? Where someone would say, oh, okay, I dropped it once, I'll be fine. But I've also played with people before you got there, Jimmy, and they were punt returners, and it was like scary to watch them try and catch a punt because they were so frequent at dropping them, but they would never stay 30 minutes after practice to fix that. You know, it was just like, oh, I'm a punt returner, so I'm going to catch the punt. It's things like that, right? It's where failure leads to more success. One tiny hiccup can open a door to allow you to create that person you want to be, right? And that's still coming down, like the little things matter more than anything. Like I hated hearing like make your bed in the morning, right? Because like in my head, like you're gonna sleep in it anyway, so why the hell would you make it? It's a waste of time. But then there's another phrase where like, show me how you do one thing and I'll show you how you do everything. So, and then I laughed at that thing too, because it's like, no, I play football better than anything else I do. But in reality, I was doing just the bare minimum in football to play, like I did the bare minimum in school just to pass, like I did the bare minimum in past relationships just to not have a headache. It's like I did the bare minimum with my room just to keep it like tolerable. You know, it's the bare minimum that was my limiting factor, because I not thrived. That's what I grew up doing, was the bare minimum is good enough. When in reality, if you want to be an All-American in a sport, in your life, in your job, in your parenthood, like anything, you can have an All-American mindset in everything you do. And that comes down to this tiny thing matters, because that tiny thing done over and over consistently leads to the high performance for the big thing. So for sports, going to practice, staying 30 minutes after practice to catch punts, never dropped a punt ever again. Never. He's not a punt returner anymore, but he's an NFL starting running back.
He was barely a punt returner that season. I think we put him back there once, and that was it.
Exactly. But he still showed up to do it like it was his job, right? He was increasing his stock to increase his odds of getting drafted. He still didn't get drafted, but he still is a starting running back in the NFL because he had the mindset that little things matter. He got straight A's in school. Like the dude just I brought up the
He
example.
came back and finished his degree.
Yeah, he came back and finished his degree. Like what professional athlete does that?
Especially just because guys do that, but guys normally wait until after they're done playing, or they just never go back because they're done at that point. He did it the winter after his first season. So the Chargers lost, and his next day he went from Los Angeles to Gunnison. It's like, oh yeah, time to go finish up this degree.
Yeah, finish what I started, right? Because he takes that seriously, just as he takes everything he does in the NFL seriously. I don't know if you follow him recently, but he's talking a lot about self-fulfillment in his Twitch streams now, which is super cool. And that's one example, just because we both personally know, right? I've had to make this switch for myself. Like I said, I had a very mediocre career in college, and it was super frustrating because of my mindset towards everything. And now that I'm taking the little things seriously, I'm waking up on a consistent time every day. I have a routine that says this is going to get me to where I want to go. I'm taking these tiny things done over a period of time seriously, because when it leads up to the inevitable big thing, I have the practice, I have the resources, I have the skills to perform at a high level. And this is what I try to teach other people, is that it's not, what is it? You don't get fat after one donut. You don't get healthy after one salad, right? It's consistent action over a long period of time. That's what the AllAmerican Mindset's really, really, really about, is that you have to know where you're going, know why you want to do it, and admit that if I'm not where I need to be, it's entirely my fault, and I can still do something to change that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a lot of similarity in what you're saying, because I feel like my main goal, I think, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a pro player, but at some point it changed to I just wanted to play football in college and start in an NCAA football game, and I did that. And I started in a couple games, played in a couple more. Would have liked to have more playing time, and it's something that's difficult when you look back on it, because you put in a ton of effort. You put in so much effort just to get to that point when you're come in as a redshirt year, when you're 18 years old, and you're like, I'm the man. I've been the man everywhere that I've gone. All I had to do was show up to practice, go lift a couple times during the week, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to ball out. And you get to college. My introduction to college football was Austin Jericho, and it was difficult. And I think that's the point of it. That's why not many people succeed. It's difficult to kind of get yourself over that hump of when you do go out there and you're not the man for the first time. You have to be able to retrain yourself to not go, well, I'm never going to be that, to, okay, I got to start taking the steps to get to that point. And that was the difficult part for me. I think I hit it a little bit too late. I hit that with a lot of things in my college career too late. I started caring about my grades like 3 semesters in, because then my parents were like, if you don't put in the work with your grades, we're going to, you can come back and live at home and go to Metro. And I was like, nope, I'm gonna do better at school. And then, I mean, I would do 2-a-day workouts in the spring. I would go lift with the team, and I would go lift again because I wanted to get a higher bench press number. And I felt like just doing that over and over again, which you probably overworking myself, didn't do anything, but it helped me out. And I did put in the work, and I started to see some progress. It's just, I think it's beneficial for people to hear this, especially if they're just starting out with their careers now, or wherever they're at. Anything that they're doing, just take that next step, because you're not going to come in and be the best at it. Like Nico and I sucked when we started this podcast. We talk about it all the time. I think we've talked about it a few times. And now we continued to take that first step. But after the first couple, we both could have looked at each other and been like, wow, this is not what we thought it was going to be. You know what? We tried it. Let's go home. It's that initial kick to where you got to start moving forward.
Exactly. And like you said, when you kind of had that determination late in your career, I had that same determination, right? Mine was the senior year, going into my senior year, where I was like, okay, something's got to change. And then I started seeing progress. Like, holy crap, I did something differently. I got a different result. Holy shit. But then I resorted back to my old behaviors because I didn't reinforce that. It was like, okay, this did this for a couple months, but now I'm going to do what I usually do. And I'm going to show up, and I'm just going to out-athlete everyone else until someone else is a better athlete than me. And then, well, I'm SOL. And then like with the podcast, it just, another piece of the All-American mindset is someone who's always willing to learn, and not just learn something new. It's always willing to learn about themselves, learn how to improve, learn how to make up for lost time, or learn how to put yourself in a position to succeed the next time, even if you fail. Failure is the greatest learning tool ever that so many people are scared of, right? You show up to college and you get hit in the face by a big old defensive lineman that like doesn't give a shit about you, and that's humbling. And that ego, like that kick to the ego, like, you know, like so many people quit football in the first 3 weeks because they're not the man anymore. And it's just that lack of openness or understanding of yourself is what really limits people. Because then they quit football, then they go into something else that they're naturally good at, and then they get kicked in the face again, and then again 3 weeks they're out of there. It's ugh.
Yeah, it becomes a cycle at that point, and that's where, because Nico and I talk a lot about our sports being where we learned a lot about how we live our lives, and if we would have quit after the first time that we weren't great at the sport, we're called the far end of the bench because we were dudes in high school and then got to college and didn't play all that much, or didn't play as much as we wanted. But it takes, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. I'll get it back, but like it's I don't know. Yeah, you're hitting home with everything you're saying, so just keep going, John.
I'm just it's okay, man. It's it's funny to think back on now, right? Because if I'm sure if both of us were to go back 5-6 years, both our careers would be a lot different. You know, if we knew what we know now, holy crap, All-American would be easy. I would definitely probably not be a defensive end still. But
no, not at your current weight. I don't think that would have flown.
No, I'd be a tight end or a wide receiver. Defensive end, no, hell no. But still, it's a matter of hindsight will always be 20/20, right? And that's why it's super imperative to think of, like, it doesn't serve you to live in the past, right? That's why failure is the greatest teacher. So you can make sure you don't do that again. So my time as a college athlete is over. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I still have fun. I play flag football just to scratch the itch, but it's not like I'm out here training for flag football. I show up to just have fun. But everything else I do, I'm building a business. I'm helping change people's lives. Like, I'm trying to be I'm trying to be an All-American at what I'm doing now. I'm making up for what I missed out on. And that's where the All-American, like, we all can be All-American something. Like, if you're a video game streamer, be the best video game streamer you could possibly be at that video game. I don't care what it is, or if you're a truck driver, or if you're just if you're a mailman. Like, you could be an All-American at anything. It's the perspective that you give, and it's something that you can build and be proud of. Be proud of in the fact that today matters more than yesterday. You know.
Yeah, it's quitting once doesn't mean, or quitting or failing once doesn't mean that that's always going to happen when you take initiative in something.
Exactly. You get, like, I failed more than most people.
Yeah.
If I were to look back at most of my life, it was failures. And I always say failures because of the high standards that I held myself to, and I put air quotes around that because I said I have high standards, but I wasn't producing high standards, you know. And I can dwell on it. I can say it's always like this, or I can turn it around and actually start acting the way I'm going to, the way I can start acting in accordance to what I say I'm going to do. And that's another thing. Like, going back to Ekeler, he never talked. He never said a word. But you saw the work he put into everything, and there was no question in anybody's mind that man was going to go to the NFL. Not a single question. And now that he is, like, everyone's like, where did this guy come from? But the people who saw it, like you knew that he was going to get there.
Yeah, there was very little doubt, and he normally did something every week that reinforced that fact. I
Oh my
remember
God.
that Colorado Mines game at home, the homecoming game, where I think he floated in the air and then landed on the defensive tackle and bounced up to his feet. I was like,
And ran.
yeah, and then scored a touchdown because he's like, oh, I'm still up. Fastest guy on the field, fastest guy within 40 miles, and he was gone. So there was just, I don't know. And it wasn't always those big things that you saw that you knew he did that made him successful. It was even the small plays, like for a running back, if we want to liken it to, if we want to talk about Ekeler, he was very into knowing pass protections and making sure that he was in the right place at the right times and what everybody else was doing. And that's a small detail that just made him that much better. And that's when he's coming out of college with Division II highlights and doing all of these crazy things, jumping over people, gliding and everything like that. The things that are going to make him stand out are those little things that he perfected, like the pass protection, like the punt catching, like that we talked about earlier. So it, I guess what I'm trying to add to this is that there's no small task that you're doing. Nothing really is menial because it all is going to serve a greater purpose into what happens next with you or what you're building next. So I
It,
think that that's big with what we're talking about.
it's the law of averages, right? What my understanding of the law of averages is what is the most consistent outcome is usually the expected result, right? If the average outcome of everything you do is the highest caliber of what you can get done, the result is going to be mind blowing, right? People only see the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the success you can build for yourself. But when people actually, when you take it down to a microscopic level, it's someone who's mastered the basics, like the tiny things. Like right now, the draft is coming up for the NFL, and all my analogies are for football because I don't. That's the only sport I really care about. But you see like Trevor Lawrence, and you see Justin, who's the dude from Ohio State?
Fields,
Justin
Justin
Fields.
Fields.
Yeah, you see those crazy throws they're making right now. And they're incredibly athletic. Like Justin Fields ran a 4.4, like 640. Like, holy crap. Like, what quarterback is doing that? But if you look at the stuff that he's done over the years that he's been playing football, like any basic question, he can answer it swiftly. He can get it done easily. Like he could probably every easy pass he'll make. You'll only notice the big ones, like the last one where he threw like a 65-yard bomb at his pro day on the money, but a 5-yard hitch right in the chest every time. Every time. I guarantee it.
Yeah, consistency. And by the way,
Consistency.
that throw, the fading away and then 65 yards all the way down the field, that's like the throw of this pro day cycle because Zach Wilson did it, Trevor Lawrence did it, and now Justin
Yeah.
Fields did it too, and Trey Lance up at North Dakota State. So I don't know what's going on,
Dude.
but yeah, the consistency. That's mainly what it comes down to. The best people in the field that you're trying to become successful in are the most consistent, and they put out the most work and they work on their stuff as much as possible. I mean, for podcasting, I would say the standard is probably Joe Rogan. He has over 1,000, probably over 1,500 podcasts because he puts one or two out every single day. And he was doing that for a long time, and he's done it for 10 years. So not only has he done it for a very long time, he has just a crap ton of experience in that very long time. So it was his law of averages was, if I put out this much shit and I do it for this long, it's probably going to get me somewhere, and it got him somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
The highest paid man on Spotify.
yeah, and he's the guy that turned Spotify into YouTube because if you click on his audio episodes, you can get the video if you flip your screen down. So he's changed the game a little bit.
It's insane, man. And especially with the way everything's changing right now with podcasts, well, just content creation in general, like this digital age we're going into, like you have to be consistent. You have to show up. You have to put yourself out there in a way that's better than anyone else can do it. But you, again, wrapping this back into the All-American mindset, like that, this doesn't mean like we're comparing ourselves to Austin Ekeler or Joe Rogan or anything. Like those are high standards. But you can't look at them and say, I'll never be like that. No, you have to look at them and say, that's the standard. That's what I got to get to just that's just to get there. Like, that's what I need to be doing. Find your own way to do it, right? Joe Rogan has his way. The countless other podcasters or athletes have their way, but they have found what they can stick to sustainably. And I'm going to bring this back to fitness, right? Because that's my realm. That's what I understand more than anything. Fitness, when you want to change your body, when you want to obtain a goal, you want to find the best way that you want to be the best version of yourself, better than anything you've ever done before. But to get there, you have to master the basics. You have to drink the water. You have to get the steps in. And then once you have those basics mastered, the workouts, they're all important, but it's the consistently showing up for yourself every day. Even if it's a small thing, you're showing up, you're doing the work. And then once you find that sustainability, then the averages, like how often were you showing up to the gym or to your workout or whatever thing you did, eventually you get to exactly where you want to go and exceed the results you thought you could have. It's sustainable. It's like you said, it's consistency. Tiny things done over a period of time to the maximum effort that you could possibly do it. That doesn't mean like go balls to the wall and like drag your body through the dirt in a workout. We did that enough in college. But like taking the workout seriously, like this is going to get me better. Taking the sleep seriously, because this is going to make me better. Everything you do is going to make you better. That's how we need to look at it. That's what the true summation of the All-American Mindset, even down to the minute detail, that's serious, and that is going to make you better.
There we go. I love it. And he tied it all the way back in. 2 podcasts in and you're already this concise and everything like that. Oh boy.
Dude, I've been talking a lot.
That's yeah. Hot tea and lots of rest. Those are the 2 things. And get a scarf for the winter times, because your voice will go. Jonah, where can they follow you on your social medias, and then where can they find your podcast as well? And thank you again for doing this. This was a lot of fun.
Dude, I love doing this. So my Instagram, Jonah Mitchell _fitness. I'm most active on there if you want to find me. Facebook, just Jonah Mitchell. Twitter, not very active, but I'm on there at Jonah M Fit. And then my podcast is the Athlete for Life podcast. It's on Spotify, not Apple Podcasts just yet, but most other like Anchor and other places. And if you want to hear it, I have the link for it. So follow me on one of my other social medias and I'll send it to you.
Sounds good. And you'll be back again next month for another Jonah's View from the Bench. And then follow the Far End of the Bench at FEOTB Pod, the YouTube channel you're watching this on. Subscribe now. And we'll be continuing to work more with Jonah. And maybe we'll have him back on for another podcast episode. But I know if we start streaming, he's going to be all over that. So we might have to have a cross little – I want to have a Madden tournament. That's just a game that I'm best at. But we'll figure something out.
I mean, I'll buy Madden for the first time in years to do a tournament. I don't tempt me.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you guys for watching. This was Jonah's View from the Bench, and we will see you guys later on.